Okay, here we are with not an EverQuest video. Leave it to me to name my channel for EverQuest and do something that's not EverQuest. But that's okay, I think this is somewhat in the same vein as EverQuest. This is Pantheon, Rise of the Fallen. This is a new MMO, and it's very much been created in the spirit of classic EverQuest. The developers have said as much, and there's a lot to it that will speak to that as well. But really kind of making this video little half-assed attempt to do a quick review for the boys and see if this is something that y'all might be interested in trying out. I've got about 10 hours into the game now, so not a ton, but enough to give me kind of a feel for it. And I'll give you a little bit of a smattering here of the single-player combat system. So you can see here I'm sitting and resting, a la meditating if this were EverQuest. So like I said, a lot of the same systems are kind of in place. Definitely the combat is a little bit more engaging than EverQuest, than classic EverQuest. Well, a lot bit more. I'm only level like 1 or 2 or 3 or something in this scenario here, so there's not a ton going on. I've really only got like one ability and a couple spells. But even just that, I'm doing more during combat than just auto-attacking here. So definitely more engaging than EQ. Maybe not quite on the same level as like a World of Warcraft or something like that, but again, early levels here, so maybe it gets more so to that end later in the end game. But I made a shaman here, and you can see I'm starting in this dungeonous cave area here, which is very dark. I believe I'm an ogre, and I think ogres are one of the races that see well in the dark, so that's another kind of like EverQuest-ism here. If you are creating a human, you're going to be pretty night blind. If you create like an ogre or a dwarf, I think they also have good night vision. It's going to be a little bit better for you, which I have not tried a human to see how bad it actually is. But I would say it's a shame if you create a race that doesn't see in the dark, because I actually really love the lighting effects in the dark areas of this game, or when it's like nighttime. You can very much see it on display here. It just gives you kind of this really nice glow. They start you with a torch. So if you are a human, that's kind of like your solution, is you basically throw a torch in your offhand and you can see much better. But you just have really great visuals, and I think the lighting they did a really good job with. Similar to EQ, again, drawing the comparisons here, I'm selling some stuff so that I can afford my next level spells. I just ding level 3, and you do get your abilities more so. Sorry, I guess I should have said this is not like EQ. This is more like Warcraft, where you get kind of like a new ability or two every level, rather than EQ. If you're a caster class, it's like every 4 or 5 levels, depending if you're inter-wisdom caster. So definitely that's a good change. I think keeps the leveling process a little more engaging, where you get something to look forward to each level and a new ability to try out. So there you go. I bought my first buff. Right click to scribe it, and then you hit B to open the spell book there, and right click it again to add to your bars. You can see the spell bars and the ability bars are auto segmented. If you kind of look, you got like that top left has 4 ability buttons. These do not cost me any mana or anything to use, but they have sort of like a longer cooldown on use. To the right of that is the buff bar, where you just see I added that one. And then below all of that is what I guess would call like the spell bar. Those are abilities that cost mana for me as a shaman to cast. If you're, I don't know if warriors have like a rage ability or something like that, probably something along those lines. But this is just kind of something neat I thought they put in here with the engagement with the environment. You see I missed that jump, so I had to like sort of crawl up the rock face. Definitely the terrain is much more engaging and dynamic than like a classic EverQuest. I know it's not fair to be drawing these comparisons really to a game that came out 25 years ago, but just because this game, a lot of the mechanics were sort of built in the spirit of classic EQ, I'm gonna keep doing that. But yeah, obviously train, you can kind of climb over it, you can crawl up it. There's a lot more sort of levels and surfaces to this. You're not just like flat plains of Karana the whole time. Um, so this is the I guess evil starting area that we're in with this cave here. I don't know if it's evil classes or races specifically. Um, I think it may be races. I have not seen any humans here. I've seen myself as ogres, and then these, I believe these are like dark mirror, I think they call them, sort of like dark elves. Except they're not elves, I think they're more like merkin or something like that from the sea. I don't know. Um, Maybe there's, yeah, these class trainers, maybe some of these look like they might be human, so maybe it is classes or races that are evil. I'm not sure, but I started here. I'm kind of giving you the tour here. Uh, you got the bank there, the stash keeper, dire lord trainer. Dire lords, I think, are more like offensive-minded tanks, sort of. Um, so similar to a warrior, but maybe less defensive abilities, I think. Um, so this is kind of a unique sort of starting area here for the evil races. You do start with a letter in your inventory that sends you to go find basically your first quest. Again, a very EverQuest thing. Um, Other than this, instead of telling you to find your class trainer, because I spawned right in front of my class trainer, this is telling me to go find basically the profession provisioner, or whatever you want to call it. Kind of starts you down the path of all the different like crafting possessions and gathering. There's herbing, there's alchemy, there's blacksmithing, leatherworking, lots of sort of very traditional profession-based things there. Um, we'll show a little bit more of that as we get into it. So I just fast forwarded here to, I'm out of the cave, found my way out of there, and now I'm in basically the main like first city that you come to, where it's instructing you to go to this profession guy who this fat ass is sitting on top of him, but he's under there somewhere. You can click on him and complete the quest. I think I popped out of the cave around level 5, so I stayed there and soloed for the first 5 levels. It was a little bit more grindy, more EverQuesty, just killing mobs kind of thing. Less World of Warcraft. There really weren't any quests for me to do in the cave, at least none that I specifically found. There aren't like exclamation points over NPCs like in WoW telling you that they have quests. You have to actually talk to them and see if there's quest dialogue. So not a huge deal, but just another sort of extra step there, which sort of in between EverQuest and WoW. Not quite as difficult as EverQuest's text quest. I don't know what you want to call that, where you have to actually type in like keywords and shit. So it's not that bad. Definitely developed from that point, but yeah, I came out of the caves around level 5. Level 5 is where you start losing experience when you die and you leave a corpse. Up until that point, you just respawn with all of your stuff. I think I just showed this to show like climbing up a wall again, just sort of interacting with the environment, which I thought was kind of cool. This is in this like spider cave where we had to jump down, and I'm realizing that my stamina needs to be full so that I can climb all the way up this wall. But yeah, I did have a little issue. I haven't run into a ton of problems yet. I know this is early access, so you kind of expect bugs, but one of the things when I died the first time at level 5, my corpse got like stuck in a rock basically, and I died like right next to a really high level mob. So I couldn't drag my corpse away, and I basically had to sort of like, I de-leveled to level 4, because at 5 you start losing XP when you die as well, and then at level 4 you stop leaving a corpse. So basically I had to de-level to 4, and then constantly respawn, run up to my corpse, loot like maybe one thing if I could before just dying to the mob that was standing right there. So I lost a good like 20 minutes doing this. I probably had to respawn a dozen times. That was kind of frustrating. It was one of those moments that was not very fun, but live and learn, and I'm sure they'll kind of get that updated. But again, they want you to kind of work with other classes and, get a clerk to res you, get a necro to summon your corpse, something like that. So they're keeping that penalty of death, basically, that EverQuest has, where you lose XP. you lose your corpse. The one good thing that they did do, however, is when you respawn after level 5, you respawn with all of your armor and weapons, and just all of your like inventory, so like bags and stuff like that, is left on your corpse. So I think that's a really good plus, because like in EverQuest, if you're a melee class and you die, you can't even fight back to your corpse on your own because you have no weapons. So this way at least you get to retain that and have the ability to actually retrieve your corpse yourself. Here we're just showing some of the group combat here. So I got into a group here, and what we saw previously where I climbed up that wall, we went to this like spider cavern, which we were definitely under-leveled for. We were getting our asses kicked. So we got out of there, came back to this, what is basically an undead camp here that we were at previously, and actually end up getting a couple levels here. I think I'm like level 7 here at this point. They did do a really good job with this, you know, game is very much like EverQuest, centered around grouping and, you know, unlocking the synergies of classes playing together. So I think that's really great, and the group experience is really rewarding, you know, as opposed to soloing and having to kind of sit down and med a lot. So I think that's great. Obviously encourages grouping up and that sort of thing, which is what MMOs really should be all about. I really only tried the Shaman class here. It's kind of a go-to for me, but I think they're really strong as a healer. I get this Mantle of the Mist as my like heal over time spell, but it's a lot longer duration. It's like a 30-second duration. I think it heals like every 5 seconds, and it's just super mana efficient. So I can heal like 10-to-1 health to mana, essentially. And I also get like a channeled healing spell. Clerks are obviously the other big healing class that are in the game. I think their heals are more like what you would expect, direct heals, like casting time, and then, you know, big heal, as opposed to heal over times with the Shaman. And I believe Druid's also going to be in the game. It's not in this early access version, but they'll probably have a healing component as well. Here we got jumped by these like high-level cultists or whatever. I don't know what happened here. Someone trained, or one of our group members got too close. There's like a camp nearby. It almost ended badly, but we actually, I think, pulled through here. One of the other things that I really like about this, you can see on screen here, so I'm just talking through real quick the things that are jumping out to me. You can see my health on the left, and then you've got this middle where I have group members targeted, and then to the right I have my enemy target. So you can have 2 targets at one time, basically. So really, well, I should say you can have an enemy target and a group target. So really helpful for me as like a healer. I can keep my tank targeted. So if I need to heal him, I can do that without having to switch targets, and then I'm able to continue to throw on like debuffs for enemies or hit them with spells and that sort of thing. So that's really cool. Takes a bit getting used to, for sure. That's kind of why I dragged all these like bars into the middle of my screen so I could like see everything at once. But once you get used to that, that's definitely a nice sort of like utility to have. Keeps you from having to create like target switching macros and stuff like that. So definitely like that element of it. I think we got like a named drop here. Hit rating item. I don't know. I didn't win it. We rolled on it. One of the things I didn't like about this so far is like the gathering is super slow. So like a lot of the like professions, you can chop down trees or like gather herbs, stuff like that. It takes like 30 seconds to like gather a node, which I think there's like items like improved pickaxes for like mining and stuff like that that make it quicker. And maybe as you skill up in those things, it gets quicker as well, which makes sense. But it just, from an early on like game experience, was not really great. If I'm out like trying to level but also collecting nodes, you know, and I collect like 3 or 4 nodes between mobs, like, I don't know, it just feels like all I'm doing is gathering, and it's just not that fun. So maybe that gets better as you kind of level, but I didn't really enjoy that element of it. What else here? So yeah, I mean, overall thoughts here. To be quite honest, I'm not like clamoring to get back into this game. It's good, and like it's early access, so I know things aren't like super fleshed out, but I really didn't run into a lot of issues per se. I think it's fairly well polished. graphics are decent. Yeah, didn't like some of the gathering, like the inventory just fills up with all these like reagents and stuff that I probably could save for professions, but don't really have room for. So some of that stuff. The early on itemization is sort of blah. I did run into a few like higher level characters, but like visually, I couldn't really tell that they were higher level. They kind of looked like me, unless like shitty leather armor. So I don't know. Didn't love that element of it either. Didn't feel like there's a huge like character progression in terms of loot and visual. But again, this is all just like, you know, a few hours in game. Maybe I haven't seen everything, and maybe it's just because I'm hanging out with a bunch of lower levels. But yeah, I guess for me, MMOs are one of those things that like you really need to sink some time into, obviously. And as an older millennial with a kid and job, you know, the time is limited. So I don't know if I'll be spending a whole lot of time on Pantheon, to be honest. With the early access, you have the game for, you know, as long as it's in early access, which could be quite a while here. So it's not like there's any monthly subscription or anything like that I'm having to contend with. So I don't know. To be honest, I'm kind of switching back and forth between. Well, I've been playing a lot of like Turtle WoW, which is why I haven't been making P99 content for a very long time. I've been playing Turtle WoW most of the year, and I might be back on that pretty soon too. Maybe I'll switch back and forth between TWoW and Pantheon here, and kind of try it out some more. But yeah, just sort of my initial feeling about the game, and maybe part of it too is like I know that eventually this server and like this character is going to get wiped. Like we're not in the final game here. They have not released all of the content, so I'm just like, it doesn't feel like it makes that much sense to invest that much time. But I don't know. We'll see. Just my initial thoughts on it. Like I said, if anyone finds this valuable, cool. If not, that's cool too. I'll send this to the boys, and they can decide if they want to jump in as well. But if you're looking for something, it's not a bad option. I think they're doing a good job with it. All right, peace out.